Hey there, powerful soul. I am actually going to give this a moment to see if there are some people that are going to tune in live, and I can ask them if they can hear me on this microphone, because I would hate to say a whole bunch of things and people cannot hear me. That would be rude. And in the event this mic is working, if you are tuning in on the replay and you would like to hear this replay or watch this replay on another platform, let me know in the comments. I will send you the link to do that once this is complete. Hey there, thank you for tuning in. For the person that's tuning in, if you could please let me know if you can hear me, that would be fabulous before I proceed. I want to make sure that my mic is working correctly, and then I will proceed. If you can let me know if you can hear me. Oh, you know what? I have another device here. Why don't I do that? She says working. Perfect. Thank you. And I'm realizing I have another device here. So what am I doing here, right? All right. Wonderful. One moment. Okay, all right. So thank you for your patience. I appreciate that. We are going to begin this conversation on the revolution, redefining having it all. I am Cassandra Austin McDonald, transformational mentor and prophetess. And this is a conversation that has been co-creating between myself and the I am that I am for quite some time now. And it is one that is probably long overdue, but we are here nonetheless. So what I like to do before I begin is do a quick drop in to make sure that we are connected within and we are present, and that our listening is more internal rather than in the headspace. And so if you want to join me, if you are not driving and you're able to do so, please drop in with me. And I also apologize. The timing is not that great. My neighbor is having lawn service done right now, and you can hear it. I don't know if you can hear it. I can hear it. So please give me some grace with that. So just take a moment and drop in, connecting with our vessel. Taking a nice deep inhale, exhale, letting go of any tension, any stress, any worries, any doubts. Another inhale, and exhale, relaxing down, dropping our shoulders. One more time. Smiling inward, relaxing our face, relaxing our eyebrows, relaxing our jaw. May God's presence go before me. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. I appreciate you being here. Again, if you are tuning in, watching the recording of this, and you realize that you would like to have access to the replay on another platform, simply let me know and you will be provided with a link to access the recording. I am going to share during this conversation a way or a couple ways that you can continue deepening inside of this work together. And I like to be transparent about that. And let's go ahead and get started. So I've been asking myself for several years now, how is it and why is it that certain powerful souls and feminine leaders that I have worked with throughout the years experienced miracles and transformational outcomes and certain experiences inside of their lives, inside of their relationships, inside of their leadership, that they would go somewhere else to experience and didn't experience it there, but then would come to me and would experience it. And it's a question I have been stewing on and percolating and marinating on for some years now, because I started to notice this pattern for quite some time, and pattern recognition is one of my gifts. And when I see themes and patterns, I feel it is my responsibility to investigate and look into it. And when I started noticing that there was this pattern of the women that I was working with having certain experiences that they were going elsewhere to receive, but then come over here with me, and in our work together, they were having more than what they thought they were going to experience, I really wondered, why is it and what is it? And I hope to answer that question today. I hope that we're going to answer that question today. And so I called this the revolution, redefining having it all. I was given the revolution to call it that. And the word revolution is something that has been in my spirit for decades. In undergrad, I minored in African American studies. And I remember one of my college professors used to always say that I reminded her of Angela Davis. And she used to always say, "You're going to start a revolution." And so this is a word that has been in my spirit for literally decades. Revolution has been in my spirit. And I like to look up the meaning of words, both the etymology and the definition, so that I can have context and clarity on the depth of what the term and the word means. And for those of you who are also spiritually mature women of depth, you get it. You understand we are women of depth. We are women who like to investigate further. We are women who like to explore nuance and like to explore the mysteries of life. And one of the etymologies of revolution is to turn over in the mind or heart. I found that very interesting. And one of the definitions of revolution is a forcible overthrow of a government or a social order in favor of a new system, usually all of a sudden. And when I was thinking about the context in which I was preparing for this conversation to have with you around redefining having it all, and this being a revolution for feminine leaders and spiritually mature women of God, women of depth, I was asking God, what is here to share that is going to be revolutionary? And one thing I don't play about in my work and in my own life is God. I see God being thrown around all over the internet streets like a random word. And there's no reverence for the I am that I am. There is no awe for infinite creator. There is no respect for the Most High. And for quite some time, I found a difficult time fully coming forward inside of my work in the online space. Offline, I do work all the time, but online, because I take it that serious. I do not play about God. For me, it's not about religion, it's about relationship. And I believe that what God is calling us into, the people that I have been called to work with in this lifetime, in this season specifically, is a revolution inside of who we be. And I believe that remaining feminine and God-led and unique in a world that glorifies sameness is actually a revolutionary act. We live in times right now where everybody sounds alike, looks alike, acts alike. And it's quite disheartening that the uniqueness of womanhood, the uniqueness of leadership, the uniqueness of sacred love has gotten distorted and condensed down into a box that if it doesn't fit in this box, that it's incorrect. And if it doesn't fit in this box, it's wrong. And if it doesn't fit in this box, you're not doing it right. And I believe the revolution that we are being invited into right now is a revolution of transformation. And that is the conversation I want to continue to unfold here with you. I believe we're in a season right now where our evolution is a mandate by our Maker. A mandate, meaning it is required. It is non-negotiable. I don't care where you're at in life. I don't care how much success you've accomplished, how much accolades you've accrued. I don't care about the titles and the labels. I don't even care how much wealth you've accumulated. I don't care about any of that. What I'm talking about here is deeper than that. And our evolution is transformational soul work. This is beyond identity work that we see in the coaching world. And while I do identity expansion inside of my transformational work, soul work is really the heart of what I dig into. That's what God has anointed me for. And I believe that this evolution that is a mandate by our Maker is the revolution. Because when we are showing up inside of our life, inside of our love, inside of our leadership, in this way of alignment, where we are planted firmly, feet on the ground, here, present, and connected to God, and connected to our center and our core. And we are showing up inside of our lives, inside of our relationships, inside of our leadership, able to ebb and flow around these roles with grace. Something happens that is quite profound, I have found. And when we are transformed inside of our mind, inside of our heart, inside of our internal system, I believe that's the system of revolution that gets to be radically transformed and disrupted, is your internal system. We become the type of women who don't look like we have it all. We actually become the type of women who can hold it all. And by hold it all, I mean everything that comes with all of the roles and responsibilities inside of our lives, relationships, and leadership. I believe that it is a gift from God to be the type of woman who can be a woman, a lover, a wife, a mother, a leader, a business owner, and find a rhythm and a flow inside of these experiences where we are able to continue to evolve within those different roles and capacities without losing ourselves, without pushing our beloved away, without creating the type of success that feels like we're caged in. Been there. Hello. I don't know about you. I'll share a little bit more about my journey in a little bit, but there's a level of evolution and transformation that we get to step into where there's freedom on a cellular level, on a nervous system level, on a biological level, on a somatic level, on a soul level. And that is what I'm interested in. I'm interested in working with freedom seekers, looking for freedom across the board, and then living that freedom out in our lives, in our relationships, in our leadership, and beyond. And having it all, for me, is a much deeper concept than accumulation, materialism, consumption. This, for me, is an embodiment concept that represents the supernatural woman, she who has it all. So having it all is an embodiment concept before it becomes anything external. This is where we prioritize the internal before the external. This is where we are walking in alignment with who God has called and created us to be from the inside out. And there is a level of devotion that is required for that. Honoring and recognizing those who are showing up here live. Thank you for your presence. I appreciate you. This level of embodiment is where we are embodied in godly power. This level of embodiment is where we are able to drop deeper into feminine principles such as patience and faith and trust and having a good attitude while we are in the void, in the wait, waiting for that which we have been co-creating with God to be made manifest and come into fruition in the physical realm on this planet. I believe that we are in a time right now where the convenience and the effortlessness of technology has caused people to get lazy with their spiritual evolutionary work, with their evolutionary becoming. They have gotten codependent with technology. They have gotten codependent with ChatGPT. They have gotten codependent with the internet and social media. They've gotten codependent with each other. And this type of embodiment that I'm speaking on is not codependent on anything outside of yourself, other than the I am that I am. And so this is where you have to get really honest with yourself and look at, how am I showing up in my life as a woman? How am I showing up with my beloved as a lover? How am I showing up in my leadership, the work that I do, or in my business as a feminine leader? And doing what I call checking and correcting myself when we're noticing I was performing a little bit over there. I was a little bit codependent over there. I was misaligned over there. I was doing the most over there. And actually being able to check and correct ourselves real time. That to me is the medicine, where we have our awareness so fully on board, where the thoughts, the feelings, the inner experiences, we're catching them in real time, real time, real time. I know this is not a popular conversation, and I'm okay with that. I'm not here for what's popular. I'm here for the powerful. I'm here for the powerful. This is an in-depth of embodiment where our very presence shifts the tone, the dynamic, and the atmosphere of each room we enter, each interaction we have, each encounter we have, especially in our home. I've been having a conversation with a client of mine about the power of dropping deeper into ourselves, and how that presence alone can shift your marriage, can shift the atmosphere in your home, can shift the dynamics between you and your beloved without you having to even say anything, without you even having to do anything. There's so much performative femininity online, faux femininity, as I call it, where they're saying, do this and sound like this and say it like this and do that to get your man to do what you want him to do, and do this so that you get them to meet your needs, and do it like that so they do what you want them to do. And there's no conversation being had about dropping back into our original nature. Who were we before we learned how to be who we are today? We were present. That's who we were. Present. Can you feel that? There is a felt sense. There is something you experience somatically in your body. Soma in Greek means body. So when you hear me say somatic, that's what I'm referring to, in the body. I do somatic work in my work, so I reference it a lot. Presence, silence, stillness. You can feel something there. And so can your beloved. And so can the people in your life. And so can the people you work with, or who work for you, or whatever work you do. Your presence can be felt. And when we walk into a room, or we walk into an interaction, or we walk into an encounter, and we have funky chi. Chi in Chinese is energy. Funky chi, funky energy. It's felt, it's smelled, it's seen, it's heard, it's noticed. So notice where you are missing your presence as a woman. Notice where you're missing your presence as a lover. Notice where you're missing your presence as a leader. And I know it can be challenging to hear this, because we live in a fast-paced world. Everything is quick, fast, in a hurry. Get, more, now, have. And the conversation I'm bringing forward is not popular. When I'm talking about concepts such as slow down, be still, feel, be present. Feel your presence. Feel God's presence in you. What does that feel like in your body? It takes remarkable faith to be the type of woman, lover, and leader that slows down in a world that sends us messages that says to go faster. There is this phrase that I learned from my Sifu, and he said that slow is smooth. Smooth is efficient. Efficient is fast. When we slow down and we get present, we can hear, we can see, we can feel, we can know. And our inner guidance as feminine leaders, that innate, beautiful, infinite knowing God put inside of us. God put a well of wisdom in us as feminine beings that does not run dry when we stay devoted to the Most High God. And when we stay connected to that and we nurture that and we allow God to nourish us, the guidance always comes. Not knowing how to have this difficult conversation with our beloved, the guidance comes. Not knowing how to present inside of this challenge happening in your company, your business, your leadership, the guidance always comes. So there's a depth of trust here in that embodiment. There's also this aspect of returning to a softened, open, purified heart. No matter how many times you've been knocked down, betrayed, sideswiped, rug pulled. Happens a lot, especially when you're in business and leadership. Everybody's competing. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be the one. And they lose themselves in that. And they get hardened. And when your heart is hardened, it affects your relationships. And when your relationships are affected, more studies than ever has shown it affects your quality of life, your health, and your well-being, and your vitality. There is a domino effect that happens when we're not living in alignment with our original nature. Another aspect of this level of embodiment is having spaciousness. Spaciousness in our days, spaciousness on our calendar, spaciousness in our life, where you have time to enjoy and be and notice and observe. And the most important aspect of this, and this is the conversation I really want to deepen here with you today, is around capacity. That we actually have the capacity, the bandwidth for all of our roles and responsibilities while remaining radiant, remarkable women in our lives, in our love, and in our leadership. And capacity is a conversation that I came upon a few years ago. And I'll share more about that here in a moment. But first, I want to go into a little bit of definition with capacity for context and clarity. Now, capacity is the maximum amount something can contain. That's one definition. Another definition is the amount something can produce. And the third definition, which really flows with the context of what we're speaking about today, is a specified role or position. And so my question to you is, as a supernatural woman of God, of depth, as a feminine leader, do you have capacity for all of your roles? Where you remain radiant and full of vitality as a woman, where you're having pleasurable, pleasant, joyful, fulfilling experiences with your beloved, where you are feeling inspired and energized as a leader, God-led. You're being led by God, and then you're leading others in the work that you do. I want you to sit with that. You don't have to answer it right now, but just sit with that and really tune in and ask yourself, is that where you're at right now? And, you know, what's interesting is my beloved, the Mr., I refer to my husband as the Mister here on these internet streets. He has, forgive me. This is, you know what, let's make this simpler. He has, he's been an engineer for several years, many years, over a decade. And one of the roles he used to have when we used to live in Illinois was designing and building bridges. And I remember when he would explain to me about the concept of bridges, where they first design the bridge to be able to hold a certain amount of weight, to have the capacity for the load that it was going to take on. And then they would go out there and build it. And I have been sitting with this analogy for several years, because I always think about things in a supernatural context, because that's just how I'm wired as a woman of God. And I started thinking about how God designed and wired us for the load that God already predestined, preordained, and pre-designed for us to be, do, have, and experience in our lifetimes, and how there is a level of capacity that God already preordained and designed for us to be able to hold and handle everything that we have been desiring to co-create, and even more beyond that, what God has also predestined for us to have. I believe God not only gives us the desires that we have in our heart, but I also believe God has plans for us that is beyond what we could have ever thought or imagined. I have experienced things inside of my womanhood, inside of my marriage, inside of my leadership that I did not pray for, that I did not ask for, but I'm so grateful that I experienced it and received it. And to me, that is the miraculous wonder of being an embodied supernatural woman. We start to step into the supernatural realm. We start to step into the miraculous realm. We start to step into where we are co-creating with God things that we could have never thought, imagined, scripted, journaled, prayed for, dreamt about. This is beyond manifestation. This is supernatural co-creation. And when you step into that, my goodness, I have stories for days, the miracles myself and people I've worked with over the years have experienced that blew our minds. And I believe that there is a supernatural, remarkable level of resilience that's required to have the capacity for all of that, because there's duality in life. You know, in the Eastern philosophy of the yin and the yang, medical Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine is a part of my training. And in the Eastern philosophy, there's the yin and the yang. And I believe we all have this yin and yang duality experiences in our lives. We have the up and the down, the in and the out, the black, the white, the this, the that. And sometimes we are experiencing where something amazing and incredible and profound is happening inside of our work, inside of our businesses, inside of our leadership. But there's something devastating happening inside of our relationship. And to be able to hold that is resilience and capacity. When I speak of capacity, I'm talking beyond nervous system regulation. Nervous system regulation is a part of the work that I do. However, this level of capacity I'm talking about is on a soul level. This is the supernatural realm. And this is where we're looking at the way in which our original nature is. Who did God create us to be? How did God design us? What is our original blueprint? What is our original nature? Our capacity is there in the design from our maker. And when we step into that and we align in that God-given identity, and we start to cultivate and we start to refine our power and we start to deepen our embodiment of who we really are, we're able to hold things inside of our lives, inside of our relationships, inside of our leadership with grace and this supernatural capacity that once we couldn't. Because maybe the way you used to deal with stress, or maybe the way you used to deal with conflict, or maybe the way you used to deal with a disagreement, or maybe the way you used to deal with a failure in your business was different than now. And this is all about deepening in your evolutionary becoming. Understanding that who we are and where we're going is operating within integrity and honor and in alignment with God and divine order. And I believe that when we are operating in divine order, there are supernatural promises that God has preordained, predestined, predesigned for us to experience. I believe that having it all is a supernatural promise from God. There are many wisdom traditions, spiritual texts. I read many wisdom traditions and spiritual texts. I source a lot of my spiritual food and nourishment from the Bible, unapologetically. And I believe that for quite some time now, modern day high achieving feminine leaders have been out of order. They have not been in divine order. They have been out of order. They've been prioritizing the wrong things and forgetting that there is a supernatural divine order that we are meant to live by. We are not meant to live like everybody else in the world lives. We are rare. We are unique. We are one of a kind. We are not supposed to be out here doing what everybody else does. We're not supposed to be sounding like everybody else. We're not supposed to be looking like everybody else. We're not even supposed to be modeling our marriages after everybody else. We are supposed to be co-creating with God, with thus saith the Lord, inside of our life, inside of our love, inside of our leadership. We're not even supposed to be leading like other people. We have a unique way in which we are to do things. And when we step out of that divine order, that's when we start to notice things are not going the way that we wish they were. And for high achieving, ambitious, driven women such as ourselves, it is very easy to fall prey to this mindset of by any means necessary. By any means necessary, I'm going to make it happen. By any means necessary, I'm going to make it work. By any means necessary, I'm going to make my man, make my husband, make my beloved do what I want them to do. By any means necessary, I'm going to get this weight off of me. By any means necessary. And the energy behind that is incorrect. And so I'm not saying that there's something wrong with being persistent and perseverant. What I'm inviting you into is to look at the energetics behind by any means necessary. Because what I discern in that is a level of force. What I discern in that is a level of pushing. What I discern that is in a level of unplugging and disconnecting from God. And deciding that you're going to drive, you're going to take over the wheel, and you're going to do it your way. I believe God is calling us back into divine order. Because for deeply spiritually mature women of God, feminine leaders, we must live differently. We must. We must have God. We must have nuance. We must have pure motives and intentions in our co-creations across the board. In our life, in our relationship, in our leadership. I see a lot of manipulation happening in leadership, online business, marketing, and part of my role as a prophetess is to speak what I see in the unseen. And historically, not for decades, not for centuries, for generations, thousands of years, prophetess and prophets have often come with a message of correction, divine correction, that the masses usually don't want to attune to and listen to. And so I'm very aware that I am not here for everyone. I'm very aware that somebody will be listening to this and strongly dislike what they hear, and I'm okay with that. But I do know that I am here for the ones who have ears to hear and who are ready for supernatural expansion and supernatural success inside of their life, love, and leadership, where it is co-created with God, not just through your own volition, not just through your own will, not just through your own pushing or making your beloved do what you want them to do, or making things happen in your work, or doing this forceful thing. I believe that we are being called to co-create in a new way. And there's a purification process and a cleansing and a purging that must happen for that capacity to hold it all and have it all to be expanded. Oftentimes we're praying and asking God, I want to experience depth of intimacy with my beloved in my marriage. I want to experience more romance and more pleasure and more pleasantness and playfulness. But there's some things that need to be cleaned out, purged out. Praying and asking God, I want to feel back in the zone, back in flow. I want to feel inspired. I want to be in love with my work. I want to feel like I'm leaving a legacy. I'm just doing work that's meaningful on this planet. But before God can pour that in, there's some things that need to come out. And when we do this process with God, God is also simultaneously repositioning us, correcting us on the right timeline. Not our timeline, not our way, not our will, but the timeline God has preset for us so that we can have the capacity to have it all, hold it all, be it all. And I believe that when we are in sacred divine order in our life, our love and leadership, then there are sacred blessings and promises that are attached to that. And I love how when I read the scriptures that God had a level of intentionality in the order in which things are shared. And there's one in particular where peace before prosperity is shared, that we will have peace and prosperity. It didn't say just prosperity, and it didn't say prosperity and peace. It said peace and prosperity. What that showed me was that there is a divine order in which God has called us to experience, to receive, to co-create with. That yes, we get to experience abundance and prosperity. And we get to have peace and remember that God's blessings add no sorrow. We get to have soul sovereignty with our success. What does that mean? That there's original wholeness there. We're not just chasing success to check something off the to-do list. We're not just chasing success to keep up with the Joneses or keep up with that competitor or keep up with this person. We're not just chasing success to feel worthy or good enough. And we are deeply, madly in love with ourselves and our beloved, not expecting our beloved to love us into loving ourselves. And also, this is going to catch some of you, not expecting our beloved to create our joy. Because I believe that we create our joy and our beloveds contribute to our joy. Just taking that in, because I know there was a time in my journey where I did not want to hear any of this. I was so in my past paradigms, programming and patterns, and admittedly, even in my ego, in my flesh, as the scripture says, I didn't want to hear any of this. I thought it was BS. Because I spent so much of my life being able to make things happen and will things into existence and push. And then I got caught up in the manifestation world a decade ago and learned all the distortion that was happening over there and seen a lot, been through a lot, noticed a lot. And I started to return back to some fundamental truths that I knew from a little girl. And I know that when we do not create, rather, when we do not co-create in divine order with God, our capacity gets capped. And when our capacity gets capped, our potential gets capped. And for modern day high achievers, ambitious, driven, even entrepreneurial women, that is a deep pain to feel that your potential is being capped. Because on a soul level, you know that you came here to realize your potential. You know you came here to unleash your potential more and more and more. You know that you came here to evolve for the remainder of your time here on this planet so that your potential can continue to evolve. And when a modern day high achieving feminine leader feels that her potential's gotten capped, I know that feeling. I know that feeling all too well. And when the frustrations that settle in and the disappointments that settle in and the bitterness and even the anger that can settle in and how it can spill over into your life, causing you to stop feeling fully yourself and radiant and full of vitality and spill over into your love. And you're not feeling that joyful playfulness and intimacy and connection with your beloved, and then it spills over into your leadership. And you're no longer feeling the inspiration and the impact and feeling like you're co-creating with God. And that is such a pivotal moment inside of our journey. And I believe it's a pivotal moment that I call a sacred surrender, where we are being initiated into our evolutionary becoming. We are being initiated to go deeper so that we can rise higher. We are being initiated as women of God with virtue and being able to show up in all these different roles that we have with more capacity, more spaciousness, more room within ourselves, without feeling like you're on the edge or without feeling like you have no more space or room left for any of it. And I know some of you may be listening to me speak and wonder what makes me qualified to have a conversation about any of these topics. And I want to take a moment to share a little bit about that. I was once coined in the coaching world, online coaching world, the triple threat coach, due to my professional background, education and training, due to my spiritual anointing and gifts, and also due to my embodied lived experiences as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as a leader, and beyond. And there was a time where my capacity got capped big time. And I didn't know that's what was happening until I started seeking a solution, because that's what we tend to do as feminine leaders. We see a problem, we look for a solution. And I was scouring the world looking for the best approaches to address what I was experiencing. I had my best year in business, in my coaching business at the time. My clients were experiencing amazing miracles and transformational outcomes in their lives and their marriages and their business and leadership. And behind the scenes, I was not holding it all. And I am not proud to admit that I was showing up in my life and in my marriage in ways that I'm not proud of. And I was leaking my power inside of my leadership. And it led to this path of resistance. It led to this path of not understanding what was going on. It led to this path of going outside of myself more and more, looking for a solution, until I started to come into contact with people like who I be today, who had supported me on my evolutionary becoming. And I started to re-engage with this depth of work in new ways, with new devotion, new dedication, and in a way that reminded me of the very beginning over 2 decades ago, when I first had my son, who is now 22. It brought me way, way back, way back. And during that time, I supernaturally shifted who I am as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as a leader. And everything shifted afterwards. My life shifted, my marriage shifted, my leadership is shifting. And the miracles that I have experienced have been so profound that I know it has been nothing but the grace of God. I would not dare take credit and say that I did the work. Yes, I co-created my transformation with God. It's a co-creation. We do have free will as humans. And I offered my free will to be a part of this transformational process. I entered God's transformational cocoon willingly to be transformed from the inside out so that I could show up inside of my life, inside of my marriage, inside of my leadership in new ways, have new experiences. And I believe that I was able to have those new experiences in my life, my marriage, my leadership, because our new beingness creates more capacity to hold more. And I believe this new beingness that we experience is a co-creation with God. And so with my gift of pattern recognition, I was noticing this pattern as I was reflecting on my work with clients over the years, and was noticing this same theme happened in my client work. They would shift inside of their womanhood first, and then they would shift inside of who they were as lovers, and then they would shift inside of who they were as leaders, and they would experience this transformational ripple effect that blew me away. And that's when I started to realize that this is a transformational work I've been anointed for. It's quite incredible to witness somebody evolve in multiple roles and multiple capacities, almost simultaneously, inside of their life, inside their marriage or relationship, inside of their leadership, and watch the floodgates of heaven open and watch the miracles unfold and watch who they become. That's my best part, is watching who they become, watching things unfold right before my eyes. It's so miraculous. It makes me even more in awe of God. Because while we have free will as humans, and we can co-create these beautiful, transformative experiences with God, there's a level of our part, our participation, our willingness, us showing up and being dedicated that co-creates those experiences. And I believe that the new beingness that we're all being invited into right now is the prelude to the supernatural woman, which is the remarkable woman. Now, I want to take a moment to share a little bit about the remarkable woman, because this is a 5-day transformational immersion that I am hosting September 8th through the 12th for feminine leaders. Hey there, my dear. How are you? Thank you for being here for feminine leaders and women of spiritually mature women of depth in God. And it's an exclusive, intimate training to reignite your feminine resilience revolution, so that you are not just someone who looks like she has it all, but you actually have the capacity to hold it all. Because I believe there is a difference. Like I said in the beginning of this, I don't care about titles and labels and accolades and pictures online and what it looks like. I care about your capacity to hold it all. And that capacity is a co-creation, as I've been talking about here on this conversation today. And so inside of this 5-day journey together, you're going to refine your power and embody more of that godly power I talked about. You're going to return to divine order and be on the correct timeline in your co-creations in your life, love, and leadership. You are going to expand your capacity to handle the duality of life. And you are going to step into rare alignment while also cultivating your inner sanctuary as a sacred temple for co-creating everything that you were preordained, predestined to be, do, have, and experience in this lifetime. So This experience is going to be held on Telegram. If you're not familiar with Telegram, I believe it's a free app. It's a free app. You would just download it. This is a paid container. Right now, this is early bird pricing, and I've made the pricing really accessible for fun because I am, in a way, making this my I'm back online type of ordeal. And the price will continue to increase. If you know someone, a peer, a colleague, or a friend who would find value in joining this, and you share the link that's shared in the welcome email when you register and enroll, then I'm offering bonus 30-minute Supernatural Woman calls with me at no cost to you. And I have limited spots available for that. So if you enroll and then your friend registers as well, you get gifted a bonus 30-minute Supernatural Woman one-on-one call with me at no cost to you. So those are always fun to have, and they're very transformative. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a link inside of the comments if there's anyone here live who wants to go and check out Supernatural or Remarkable Woman, 5-day transformational immersion happening on September 8th through the 12th. And if you're watching the replay and you would like additional information, simply reach out. I will share the link with you, and then you can get yourself registered. If you are not interested in a group container and you want to know how you can work with me one-on-one, I have 2 4-month spots open for the remainder of 2025. Simply reach out so that we can have a discussion about what that looks like, how we can work together, and how I can support you in your evolutionary becoming inside of your life, love, and leadership. And one final request before we complete this conversation: if you know of someone, a peer, colleague, or a friend who you think would find value in this and you want to share with them, that would be awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time and presence. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you very soon. Take care now.